Hello and welcome to Steve's Backyard Bonsai. You're looking at my Bald Cypress Penjing, which is coming along. It's in need of some tender loving care, and we're going to look at the structure, what's developing, what is pointedly not developing, and try and figure out how to make this look better based on what the trees are giving me. Look what this tree is giving me. It's giving me this curve. This tree is giving me a like curve. They're kind of dancing in a way, but I don't know. It's presentable from this angle, right? So I'm going to start by cleaning up the stream bed. This side has a moss that grows little fern-like things that seem to want to hang down into the creek, and that's great because there are places where the creek's infrastructure is showing, like here and here. This is just a piece of a vinyl tubing that I use to edge, and it's got cuts in it to allow water to go through. So it collects, but it dissipates the water all along here on that same opposite curve. So I want to clean this up, take out some weeds, and let's move on to make this thing look better. We're going to talk about these branches. We're going to make some cuts. First, I'm going to just clean up some debris in the stream bed. A lot of these are stones. I don't want to hit them with my scissors. It makes us cringe when that happens, and it's very hard to keep up with. For clean cuts. All right. So I hope you can see this, and I hope I can do it without blocking you. But what I'm going to do is kind of lift the overgrowth and just trim to where I think it should be trimmed. This is obviously something that's going to have to be kept up with. I know what I signed on for, so if you like this, let me know. It might be a little too clean, but looks pretty good. It'll grow in. All right, let me get back under there. I don't know if you can see it, but there's some of that tubing showing here. Showing more so on the other side. That's a different type of moss on the other side. That's more of the moss that I cultivated in my moss experiment, which you may have seen. My moss sod. That's more like my lawn looking moss. This is more like what I'd like to see in a swamp. Okay, I almost can't reach in anymore. All right, let me clean that out. Well, no. Let me keep trimming. Mosquito. Oh God, I hate mosquitoes. I gotta get my thermocells going. Always keep a paintbrush handy. Sweep it into an area where it's easy to pick up. You either marvel at the beauty of what you've just done, or you cringe at what you've just done. But I think you know, from a maintenance standpoint, that was a good move. From an aesthetics, well, that remains to be seen. That looks pretty good. Not as natural as I'd hoped, but pretty good. All right. There's a few little stragglers. See if I can get in from this side. All right, so I left it a little longer up above. These will extend down and it'll look quite natural in a very short time. Let me just make sure you can see what I've been doing. All right, now I got to tackle the other side. It's a more difficult type of moss to trim. So here's an area that's going to still collect muck. It's still going to collect in the stream bed. If all of this is moss, that problem is pretty much alleviated. You know, moss acts as a retention wall, if you will. Okay, that's a little cleaner. I'll get those weeds in a second. What do I do on this side? Here's where I have the need for more moss. I have to plant it strategically, and the stream runs off on this side. I'm going for the illusion of depth, so there is a clear front to this, unlike some of my others. This one definitely lends itself and was designed for that purpose. Lends itself nicely to the illusion of depth. So if I'm achieving it, please let me know, because my perspective is different. It's good to hear from people. I'm telling you what my objective was, and I'd love to hear your comments. I'm pulling out the weeds at their bases. I'll modify the view so it's easier to see. Okay, this big clover here. I'm trying to get all of it out. Broke. But I got the root. Another big clover. Broke. I'm also going to take out any big pieces of perlite or unsightly gravel. Got my hand out, so it's a good receptacle for whatever I pull off right now. Just what's unsightly, that's all. All right, so that's got my stream bed cleaned up. I still want a path through here that's going to go this way and back in through the forest out that way. I had started that, but it started to look messy, so I let it overgrow. In this area, the leptonella, it's the only place on the planting where the leptonella is still growing, and that's these little red and green ferns, which I love, but they didn't thrive. So I'm going to let these grow. Obviously their roots are well developed, and I have some others in another pot that also aren't doing well, but they're isolated. I'm pulling out what I think is Irish moss. Which, once it gets a hold of your planting and gets established, it's really, really hard to rid yourself of it, if that's your desire. All right, next I want to try and get all the moss off the base of the trees. In some cases it's pretty thick, like right here. And I'll brush this off. I might even soap it up a little bit. Why don't I zoom through this section for you? All right, so the cleanup is one thing. It did show me that I'm getting some fluting here. Doesn't look so great from all sides, but this one's got a nice spread to it. This one I am almost certain I won't be seeing any growth on it in the springtime. Jury's out on this guy. But let's look at the canopy. All right, so from the start, and it may not be visible to you, I am looking at this as if I am eye height. My eye height would be right here on the canopy, so I'm looking straight at this. I can't give you that same point of view while showing you the whole scene. But I think this right here would make a fine leader and more in line with my understanding of where the height of the tallest tree should be. So I am going to make a first cut. That's a pretty big, drastic cut. And I'll make it, if this is going to be my new leader, I'll make it angle down from here. So I'm going to lose all of this. but I think that's more what I need here. So coming in with my left hand, I'm going to make an angled cut. Close but not touching the top of that branch. I don't want to wring it. Okay, this is going to set the tone, and I am going to try and root cuttings from this because I think I'm going to need a couple of trees. I have some rooting now, but they're really small. All right, so that was a drastic cut for this tree. I like this branch. It competes for the apex, but not if you're looking at it straight on. And if I want this to become a flat top, I probably should cut this one back. And I'm going to do that here. That's giving me 3 opportunities for branching up there. This is right below that. I don't need this one at all. This, the tree's going to reject that anyway, but I reject it from an aesthetics standpoint. That lessens the opportunity for something to grow back there. Do I want to leave this or this? These are very viable. These are not. I'm going to get rid of them now. No sense in making the tree send energy to branches that I don't want to improve. Now, I think I could safely cut this off here. And I have some nice flat leaflets there. All of this is sapping energy, and that is an interesting kind of flat top in the making. These trees are not done with their growing season yet. So if I can get the energy to allocate to some other foliage, pretty big cut. This being my main tree. But all along I've said I want the branching to develop as if these trees were growing together. I'm just getting involved from an aesthetic standpoint. All right, I got some things developing down low that might come back in spring. So the only one that I'm going to, well, there are 2 I'm going to take off. I'm going to take off this alternate, and this is just a frond. And then there's another alternate here, which is on top of this. I'm going to leave it here because it's going to help strengthen that intersection, and this one as well, and this one as well. This one out the front, I don't think, it's just going to drop off anyway. I'm going to leave it. This tree is done. Or is it? Let me take a look at those more closely. Yeah, I'm going to take this alternate piece of that off, which is growing abnormally long and interfering with a neighboring tree in a place where I'd like a branch to develop. You know, and this might be a lesson to me in how to prune these. I'm calling them alternate branches, but they're just leaf growth. All right, that tree's done. Let's do this tree, and the others I will do in time lapse. My new height. Everything else will be lower than that. This one's going to come close. So we're going to move on to this tree. I'm not going to touch any of this except for those places where there's a little branchlet coming out. I don't know which one of these would be the branchlet. I'm going to leave it. In this case, I like the upper longer one. Now, can anything act as an alternate apex on this tree? This could, right here. And I could lop this off. As I did here, I could trim this to a place where I would hope it would start to branch out. And that would put it on par with this other main tree. Which is not a bad looking tree either. That got my brain in gear when I made that cut on the other tree. So how do I do it on this one? Okay, I approach it from above. I eyeball the heel. I rotate that a little bit because I don't want it visible from the front. I look to see if anything else is compromised. And I squeeze. Okay, you can see what it looks like from the back. From the side, rather, right there. It's a little close. What's now too long? What could I do here like I did here? I definitely think I can... I like that this divides here. So I'm going to trim this one back the lowest. It's below this. I got to find a good place to trim this one back now. I think my only choice is here. And this is flattening out the top of this tree. I don't think I want this branch right here, which helps me. Does it help me? I think I need that to heal that wound better. I'll take the piece off below it, but I'm going to mark in my mind that this branch might want to come off. And this part of this branch can come off. It's just a little, it would be a branch. All right, I want to thin this out. Not quite thinned out enough though. Piece going down. This piece going up. I think Luca wants to go in. All right, let me go let Luca in and I'll be right back. That's what I say to him all the time. I'll be right back. I just thought I'd put some white background behind the individual tree to show you. So, I like that. That's a little bit too long. And I see a couple of opportunities right here. It's still a little too long, but we'll let it go. This one I said I would leave to try and help heal the wound. This little one is right below this, so it's crowding it out. Taking it off completely. And these small ones also. Oh, you know what, I am going to take this one down. It's interfering with the other tree. That's a good spot. Because this tree that's right behind it is one of the next ones to tackle. I think these 3 trees we hit next. So this one, it's still below this, but hopefully I'll get some more branching there. This one I'm going to let grow up. Let's take a look at that. I want to give it space to grow, so I'm going to get rid of this. That branch that was there. That crosses behind. Is there a way I can shorten that? Well, from this view, it doesn't cross, which is also sort of a front view, but from here it does cross. Do I care? I don't care. I'm leaving that. Annoys me, but I'm leaving it. Going down the tree, I've got 2. I'll get rid of this one on the inside. Here's 2 coming from basically the same place. I'm going to get rid of this one. And these may just fall off because I see no, there's no reddening of the stems unless you get really woody, like a dawn redwood. There's none of those clues, the good clues. I'm going to take a piece of this off. So that's done. This branch out back, I'm going to take it down just a little bit. That could be a little bit more. I don't even remember if I cut that one. I don't think I did. And I'm going to leave this little, am I going to leave it? Yeah, I'm going to leave it because I've got no low branches and I do want to see some foliage at that height. All right, it's time to speed this up. You've seen the way I think, I hope. If there's anything special about what I'm about to do that I think you ought to see, I'll stop myself and I'll show it to you. All right, I said I would stop and show you something that I thought was worth showing you. And this is an example of it. All right, so here's my front tree. And I'm getting everything down in height below it. Still working on a few things. But I'm starting to think this branch off to the side, and I'll zoom back up on that, is problematic. Mostly because there's a branch below it that I want to encourage to grow in that space. So this is a tough decision. That's a nicely developed branch, but it doesn't have any sub-branching until way up here. So I think this one comes off, and that's my reasoning. There's a lot of aesthetics associated with that reasoning, which is not a bad thing. So I'm just going to leave that And I think that was a good decision. But this is too tall. So a good place for this to align now, I have a cluster of branches right here. That's where that wants to be. Now this has room to grow up and take some of that space. All right, going down that tree, nothing I really want to point out to you, so we'll go back into time lapse. All right, here it is all cleaned up, and well, there's always something more to clean up. But cleaned, pruned. I discussed my modus operandi here. These go back very, very steeply, but that's because these two trees right here have not developed. And I can see myself pulling these trees out, replacing them with cuttings. These were all cuttings except for the two main trees. This is a lot less severe of a slope back in order to give me the depth I'm looking for. I've got good placement of trees, I think, for this planting. Because as you approach it from the front, you see everything. Let's say you're walking this way, you see everything. That's true with any forest. And you can really get a sense of the dry stream bed when it's wet or dry. So I'm going to put some cut paste on the severe cuts. And for cut paste, I'm going to be using Titebond wood glue. This is the ultimate, rated #1. I'm going to lower this down a little so I can reach better. Gotta love hydraulic carts, especially when you're in your 60s. This one I cut a bit close, but I think it'll be all right. It's supposed to rain today, so I don't want to put these out on the bench. I'll leave them in the greenhouse and water them here. Hopefully you can see through a lot better. I took some of the internal needles off. I didn't take them all. I'll work on that before I put it out. But that's it for today. Actually, that's it for this video. I'm probably going to be making another one today. But you won't see it on the same day because I get backed up. So, from my little greenhouse, Luca has gone inside, but Luca and I say thank you very much for keeping us company in our backyard.